Hello, welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host, Neil Magnuson. This is the show we try to explore truths, hope, and change, THC, and mostly centered around THC, it seems. That is one of the bigger stories in our world today. On the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from Cannabis.ca join us for the 420 session and beyond, and we'll visit the Healing Wave CSP van for a short visit out there of what's going on here with the Cannabis Substitution Program. I just want to note that Facebook banned our show, banned Glenn from creating a show last week. There's another 23 days to go now, so that's why we're broadcasting through my page and being shared onto his page. So that's what's going on with that, and that's why we had a delay today in getting started, because we turned on the camera, tried to get going, and up came you are not permitted to create a live stream. So we went with my phone, and here we are now, we're doing that. Today on the show, I want to talk, of course, about 420 coming up. That's the most exciting thing. I'll tell you right off the hop that if you want to get involved with the official 420 in Vancouver, you can get a booth, or you can do sponsorship, or find out other information at 420protest420@gmail.com. The other thing I want to talk about today is just how horrible this situation still is with respect to prohibition. I saw a comment yesterday, somebody said, well, cannabis is legal everywhere in Canada. Well, no, it's not. And we've been telling you about that every week on this show, and we're going to continue to tell you about it. But as if, we needed any more proof that cannabis is not legal all over Canada, we had that outrageous Gestapo police force in British Columbia called the CSU descend on the Victoria Buyers Club and raid them of all of their medicine for all of their people. Now for the second time that they've done that. In fact, at the first time they did it, they ended up imposing fines of $6.5 million on Ted and his club. And here they are again, going in there. I mean, I don't know about defunding the police, but we certainly need to defund the CSU. They need to be broken up, and actually they should all be reprimanded and probably charged criminally for what they've done. It doesn't fly here any more than it flew, with the Nazis back at the end of the Second World War, that they're just doing what they're doing because they're told to do it. This is the law. These were our orders. We're just following orders. Well, fuck you, CSU. And Annie Barbie, that's really required here, because these assholes are just the worst. They are absolutely the worst. There they are going into the Victoria Buyers Club, where there's a dozen or so people that are protesting what they're doing, saying shame on you, and you're going to really realize how evil this is down the road, and a bunch of other comments being made all the way through. People with signs that they made up, people crying. And these assholes are going in there and just taking out boxes and boxes of medicine that is designated for the people that really need it. Cancer patients, people addicted to opioids, people suffering with the chronic pain, and many other things that have come to rely on the benefits of cannabis, especially in the form of high-dose edibles and other concentrates, that aren't available in the legal marketplace. They should be so ashamed of themselves. I mean, where is there a victim anywhere? Produce for me a victim of the Victoria Buyers Club. Who have they ever harmed? And put that up against the list of people that they have helped, that goes on for 26 years or more now, that they've been helping people. I mean, you talk about a track record. If you watched last week's show, I read to you the beginnings of the letter that I'm going to be sending to Health Canada in response to their intent to deny our license to do what we've been doing for 6 years. And in that letter I state, you would think 6 years of demonstrating the effectiveness, but most importantly the safety of what we're doing, would be enough. But apparently even 26 years of doing the same isn't enough. There's been court battles fought and won by the Victoria Buyers Club. Yet here's the CSU in there thinking that somehow it's okay to take taxpayer dollars and use it to restrict access and deny access of medicine to sick people. I can't really think of much more of a horrendous crime than that. There was a few people crying outside the VSB there, or VBC, sorry, when the raid was going on. Made me wonder about how many hundreds of people are finding out about this and crying in their homes. Now what are they going to do? This is cruel and unusual punishment of disabled people by the Canadian federal government, and especially by our provincial enforcement arm of the Cannabis Act. The Cannabis Act itself is quite the contradictory document. It contradicts itself. It's much like the computer that was facing off with Captain Kirk in a Star Trek episode, where Captain Kirk pointed out that you are the main barrier to what it is that you're seeking. And it had to explode on spot. So here's the Cannabis Act that states that its goals are about public health and safety, about maintaining a regulated supply of cannabis, and deterring illegal activity. But I put to you that quite clearly the Cannabis Act is the biggest barrier that there is to achieving those goals. Maintaining artificially high prices and not allowing for high-dose edibles and the other restrictions that are in there forces especially vulnerable people, especially poor people, to the black market. So they are propping up the unregulated marketplace with an act that says its goal is to stop that. Worse than that, way worse than that. In poor neighborhoods like this one, many of the people that would use those high-dose edibles that they can't get because of the Cannabis Act are seeking other relief for their pain. The opioids and other street drugs that is driving this health care or public health emergency that we've been dealing with for 7 years now are easily and readily available all through this neighborhood. And not just here, all across Canada in poor neighborhoods and beyond that. It's obvious that access to those drugs is quite easy. It's obvious because there's so many people dying of overdoses and overdosing on those substances right across Canada, right across North America, around the world. It is easy to get those drugs. There's tents all up and down Hastings Street near Maine where they'll offer you and sell you whatever you want. All of those nasty hard drugs, they're the source of many people dying. People come into this neighborhood from all other neighborhoods around because this is where they can score that stuff if they're not getting it elsewhere. Do the police shut down these tents? Rarely. When they do, it seems much more like they're acting on behalf of one party in a turf war against the other party in a turf war. When they do intervene, there's very seldom any serious consequences for whoever it is that is selling it. They don't go take those tents away, get them off the street, make sure that there's people not offering those drugs to people there. No, they're putting their efforts into raiding places like the Victoria Buyers Club and us. And the tents that's set up at Thornton Park, where we're going to have 420 coming up here in 24 days. They spend resources shutting those people down. We had quite the handful of cops, including 2 sergeants, at St. Fatty's Day in Thornton Park there. They don't mind putting resources into trying to shut down access to cannabis, but they're not putting very many resources into trying to shut down the other stuff that's going on around here. And when they do, like I said, it just seems to be facilitating the desires of one gang against another gang, because they really seem to be in control here. It is disgusting beyond belief. It's disgusting beyond belief that they would take taxpayer dollars and use it to take away medicine from people and shatter these lives and put so many people into despair because of it and send them back to finding relief for their problems in a hard drug supply. That's what I mean about the Cannabis Act being counterproductive to what it states its goals are. If it wants to deter illegal activity, if it wants to keep people into a regulated supply of cannabis and other substances, well, it's achieving the opposite. It's forcing people into the black marketplace. It's forcing the sale of those other unregulated substances. It's forcing the profiteering that's going on by all of the bad actors that are cashing in on people's addiction to opioids. We really need to give our collective heads a shake that we would allow for such things to be going on in our world here. This is our society. These are our public servants. These are our people that are being preyed upon and exploited the way that they are. We really should figure out how to get united as peoples and do something about this. It's gone way, way, way too far. We fought hard for legalization of cannabis. We thought legalize and regulate was the right way to describe what it was that we wanted. Nobody wanted to be a criminal growing plants, extracting cannabinoids, making edibles and having them available to people. Lots of people love doing that. It's really a cool thing to do. Cannabis is a wonderful commodity that is fun to have around. It's fun to be around. It helps in so many different ways. And when you're able to grow it yourself and produce it, and then you're able to take what you produce and extract those cannabinoids and turn that into beautiful cakes and cookies and other things like that, that's a wonderful thing. When you're able to produce enough and it's so attractive to other people that they want to pay you for what you're doing, and then you bring in a little money because of it, and then those people come back and say, man, I haven't slept like that in a long time, thank you so much. Or I had such a good time Friday night by not drinking and just using the cannabis I got from you. I'm making stuff up, but you know this is true. It's a very rewarding thing to be providing cannabis to people that want to have it and that need it. It's extremely rewarding. There's a young man here who's been on my show a couple of times, who's in the edibles business, quit his other job to do that. And the reason he did that was because one day, and he had actually sort of taken over the management of somebody else's edibles business. And then one day this person came that he found and saw was quite messed up. Something really off. They were suffering with 24 different antidepressant pills that they were taking. He gave her a bunch of the edibles that he was making. And it wasn't that long after that he saw her again. And she wanted to hug him and thank him, and she was a completely different person. She was down to one prescription medication and quite happy about it. And since then has lived quite a successful life. But that was the impetus for him to decide to take over this company, to quit his day job, and to start providing edibles to people. He did that quite successfully for quite a while. But then one day, the cops showed up at his door, treated him like a low-life criminal. He told his story on this show. Maybe you can go back and find it. They did everything they could to ruin his life and to ruin what he had going on, including killing all of his fish, seizing his truck, seizing his phones, cutting off his electricity, which is what killed the fish, etc., etc. Where is his victim? Where is his motivation to try to hurt somebody for his own personal gain? Where is there anything like that? Because without that, you cannot call this activity criminal. It's criminal to do that. People that are selling cannabis to other people to help feed their families, pay their rent, or whatever it is, and the people that purchase the cannabis are more than happy to get it, more than happy to pay what they're paying for it, there is no victim. It cannot be a crime. I think that means it's 4:19, and I got a lot more I could say about it. I'll only spend a minute. I guess in the middle of I can talk a little more about just how outrageous. Yeah, you just figured that out.
I realized that.
The criminalization of free people for growing plants, selling it to other people, or possessing it and consuming it themselves is itself a horrendous crime against our society. There was never any justification for that, ever. there was stories being told in the newspaper that were all based on lies. Any politician doing their due diligence would have quickly realized that cannabis does not cause violence. It's not anything like that at all. And they never would have gotten away with prohibiting it and criminalizing the use of it. But to criminalize the use of a natural medicinal herb, one of the best that there is itself extremely criminal. And I think that the CSU needs to be, like I said, not just defunded, but they need to de facto be charged with the crimes that they are committing without any victim to justify what they're doing. Well, I think that must bring us to 4:20. We're using my phone today for filming this, so I don't have it there to really see what time it is, but my alarm went off. There we go. 4:20 means it's Glenn Wells.
Hey, how's it going?
You're synonymous with 4:20.
I am.
Yeah.
And even my license plate, eh?
And your license plate and everything. That's right. You're the 420 guy.
I like to show up at 4:20.
You're the 420 guy. I think we just found a moniker for you.
There you go.
The 420 guy.
Yeah.
Because every show, the THC show, and we're into 4 years now.
Yeah.
You've been here and helping celebrate 420.
Well, to see, I've been here for 420 days yet.
More than that. Not 420 times.
Yeah. But
What are we? We're just about at 200 shows.
Yeah, we're at about 182. I think we're at sitting right now. Are we smoking this today, or
You can smoke that if you want. I'm still a lightweight.
Yeah, you're still lightweight. All right, I'll get into this.
I spent a few days, not feeling
nice.
great in the last week.
Did you make these?
No, I don't make those, but
but somebody has made.
Somebody makes them.
Made them for the CSU. Okay.
No, they don't make them for the CSP, and they don't make them for the CSU either.
I mean, CSP. Healing Wave. Maybe they make them for.
No, they just make them for the public, and then I buy some of them.
Okay.
It's Lisa.
Oh, it's Lisa.
Yeah, who has her. She had the health lifestyle dispensary.
Oh, okay.
Up on Kingsway for quite a while.
Ah, yes.
She's had a few other dispensaries. She's at every protest that we have.
Okay.
420.
Yeah.
She was at St. Fatty's Day.
She was there.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The only one she wasn't at was Canna Love because she got there too early. She found that they were closing down that other side of the art gallery. She started trying to inquire as to what was going on, with the booth that she had put money down on. And the cops started sniffing around her rental truck, and she just got the heck out of Dodge.
Oh, no.
And so she went all the way, she lives about 65 miles away from here. And so she just went home that morning, so she wasn't there. But she's always at all these things. It has been for years.
Do you have more than 30 grams in here, ma'am? Wow, eh?
Can we move those boxes of whiskey out of the way and those cartons of cigarettes to make sure she doesn't have any more than 30 grams of that evil marijuana stuff?
Wow, this is not bad. I like this.
People like them. We are able to put them out for $4.
$4.
$4.
I like those diamonds that you gave me last week
Oh,
too.
boy,
They were
those are
nice.
good.
Wow.
We do have some of the best medical products available here for people because that's what we need to do to help with what's going on here with this public health emergency. People need to have good quality cannabis. So that's what we're doing.
Yep.
And we are fighting tooth and nail with a federal government that is so corrupt that they're not even willing to have a look. For one thing, they've never been here. They haven't even asked me any questions. We did give them a complete application of, all the ins and outs of what we're doing here, so maybe they don't need to ask me any questions. But if they actually read that application, they would have given us a license immediately, or at least an exemption to be able to continue what we're doing. They wouldn't have been sitting on it for over 2.5 years, coming up with excuse after excuse. Well, usually it's the same excuses now. Mm-hmm. But delay, excuse, delay, same excuse. And so now we're in the process of responding to their second intent to refuse, with their reasons being the same as they were in the first intent to refuse, reasons that we addressed quite properly in our submission to them, in our response to that. Mm-hmm. And here they are back at it again, saying, oh, no, same things. They're saying you're not using all regulated cannabis, and that they have a real problem with that. Even though for 6 years, we've demonstrated that the cannabis we are using has had not a single complaint, has been very effective for people. There is no reason to not allow that to continue with a simple exemption. However, if they want it to all be regulated, well, I'm fine with that as well, providing it's done in a way that doesn't raise our prices. Yeah. And it continues a good quality supply. So we've suggested to them that we could have the present suppliers licensed. Mm-hmm.
About all the stuff that they throw away.
And well, that too.
Yep.
That's our second proposal,
Yep.
is that the LPs that are destroying a lot of the stuff that they produce for a variety of reasons, that's all regulated cannabis. Why should they destroy it when there's people that are dying in a public health emergency that could use that, and we're a vehicle to getting it there?
Yeah.
So we could take that. We could also have members of our society be designated growers for some of our clientele and use the overage, and that's much more complicated. But we have suggested remedies for their concerns, to which they're silent. They don't respond. They don't enter into dialogue. They're not working with us. I think that based on who they say they are, our goals are aligned with theirs.
Yeah.
You know, we're trying to address a public health issue here and do it as best we can and as safely as we can. We're the experts. We've been on this for over 6 years now.
Yeah.
We know what works for people,
Yeah, we
what
know.
people appreciate.
People come back and tell us what works.
They
for
tell
them,
us
too.
every day,
Yeah,
I
so-
didn't like that, I do like this, blah, 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 and we respond in kind as any business would. You roll with what it is that your customer needs.
Yeah, and likes. Yeah.
So, you know, they should come and talk to us, you would think.
You would think so.
So that's their one concern, is it's not all regulated. And that's just ridiculous, because we would like it to be regulated. It could be regulated. It's their job to figure out how to regulate it or get us a regulated supply. And like I say, they're destroying a whole bunch at cost to the growers. So rather than have the growers pay that expense to have it destroyed, how about they just allow us to come and pick it up, and we'll use it for our good purposes.
Yeah, make oils out of it, cook with it, all
Lots
kinds
of
of
things.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that, but they're not willing to talk to us about that.
Our friend in New Zealand said he's paying $220 for 15 grams of Tilray pot.
And he's allowed to have that probably
Yep. Yep, because
by their program, but that's all he's allowed to have
$220
is 15 grams
Yeah.
every 2 weeks, and they're paying a couple $100 for it.
Yeah, $220 he says right here.
Yeah, so that's the New Zealand program that's going. Oh no, that's Australia that's doing
No,
that.
New Zealand.
He's in New Zealand.
He's
the one
in-
I'm talking about is in Australia.
Okay, well, this is
Sorry
New
about
Zealand.
that.
That's right,
I
yeah.
know New Zealand is not Australia. I'm not trying to say. Sorry about that. I think they're a little touchy about that. in New
They
Zealand.
get them a little bit mixed up sometimes.
Yeah.
Because of
Well, the accent is
It's
similar.
Similar, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
so that's
yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know,
Wow. Fuck, $220 for half ounce. Wow.
that must be real. Oh no, it's Tilray weed.
It's Tilray. It's not even.
I really feel bad for you people.
Oh man.
Oh, man.
As Cheech and Chong said, that shit wouldn't get a fly high.
Yeah. Oh no, it's really sad around the world. I mean, we should really feel blessed and be telling the world, hey, it's great here. This is the way it should be, but it's not.
Yeah, it's not.
You know, it might not be as bad as it is in many other places around the world, for sure. We understand that 100%. But we're looking for logic and reason here. We're
Yeah.
looking for what is the truth and the right thing, not, you know, what we're allowed to have by a bunch of, you know.
And they said that us medical patients would be taken care of. And that lady was just, in the video we were watching, had MS. And she just said to the police that your recreational stuff does nothing for my MS. This stuff is what we need for my MS, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That was Trudeau that said that back in the lead up to his being elected.
Oh.
That when
Well, we'll
commenting
take
on
care of
his,
the
his
medical
proposed
people.
legalization for recreational purposes, was going to make sure, you know, there wouldn't be a problem for medical patients.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a big problem for medical patients, so he needs to readdress that for sure. There is a consultation that's coming up. There's a little bit of time to get back. I don't have my phone to, be able to look up shit
We can
anymore.
look it on my phone.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah,
You're
because
the one who sent it. You're the one who sent it
I
to me,
sent you
so
the
you should
story
probably
since
have
we're
it.
using my phone today.
So yeah, they sent me a notice to take part in this consultation. I absolutely will. And the way it reads,
There you go.
the different things. Well, you want? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. You know what you're going to.
Well, maybe.
Yeah.
What's this stuff?
Oh, just get rid of that.
How do you get rid of that?
I don't know. Here.
That's what I did too.
Yeah. There
You know, first time when I looked at it, I had to go back and do that, and then it came up. So, but what I was interested in was they're going to look at, you know, how they could amend this to be more reasonable. And part of what I appreciated was that this is due to some feedback by some licensed cannabis retail outlets and producers about things that they feel are unfair. Mm-hmm. And we talked about that on the show before, that there's a real hypocrisy, a very unlevel playing field, if you will, when it comes to how cannabis is regulated and how other commodities are regulated.
Yeah.
And in some of the cases they're bringing up here, it's with how other medical products are regulated.
Yes.
And it's just not fair, and it's unjustified. So but it's part of the way that the government's maintaining these super high prices and what they've got for legalization. Is there any of this I want to read?
The market is mature.
Yeah, I kind of like the first one here. It said, tweaking the cannabis licensing regime. For example, the regulator is asking whether the licensing system could authorize new activities with cannabis that are not currently authorized. I mean, I read that and I go, well, great. I mean, we are one of those activities, high dose edibles and low barrier access that needs to be licensed. Whether, the people behind all the regulations look at that and see that the same way as me, I'm not sure. But that's how I read that, is that it provides a little bit of hope that they might consider licensing an activity to do with cannabis that is what we're talking about, low barrier access.
What the government does with hope, they squash it.
Yeah, they do.
We've had hope for the CSP for such a long time.
And then the second one is that the personal and physical security measures that are in place, the regulator seeks feedback on whether personal security requirements could be changed without increasing the risk of diversion. Like, why would they even be worried about diversion, They're so worried that the cannabis that people are consuming be regulated.
Yeah.
If there's diversion of regulated cannabis into that underground marketplace, you would think that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't be terribly concerned about the diversion of regulated cannabis into the marketplace.
But it's
so you see, this is what I mean when I talk about how it seems like they're just trying to capitalize on the sale of cannabis, monetize it as best they can. They're not interested in getting it to people that need it. Yeah. And any of the health products that are good to do with cannabis.
They're just seeing the money.
So they're just seeing money.
Yeah.
So they're wondering if maybe some of these physical security rules could be changed without posing a risk to public safety.
It could be the tinting of the windows too, because as we just recently heard, in Kingsway there was a store robbed, and the guy's complaining that nobody could see inside to see what's going on, to make that 911 call that he could have needed, that saying, hey, this store's being robbed.
Yeah.
Right? They can't see that.
Or even if a cop drives by, can't see that there's something going on in there that isn't right.
They're left to their own measures, right? Just one employee in the store, then a guy with a gun or a knife or whatever he may be carrying, right? So
and it makes no sense anyway. I mean, compared to alcohol, let's compare it to alcohol.
Yeah, the alcohol windows are not.
You can look into a liquor store.
Yeah.
Liquor stores, the requirements and restrictions on liquor stores and alcohol providers is nothing close to what it is for cannabis.
Yeah.
It is ludicrous. Not only that, they have all kinds of glorification of alcohol advertising on the stores themselves. Lots of posters up, lots of things. I don't know if it's on my phone. I would have put it up to the camera. On my island trip a week ago or so, I happened to see this great big sign for a liquor store.
Yeah.
And so here's the liquor store. Now there's another advertisement on top of that for the pub that's right across the parking lot from the liquor store. And then underneath that, there's the advertisement for the daycare.
Is it on your wall?
No.
No, okay.
I should have put it on my wall.
Yeah, because then I'd be able to find it.
I'm going to post it on my wall later. So there's a daycare adjacent to, like attached to, it's like an annex of the building that is the liquor store.
Yeah.
And so they've got the great big liquor store and the pub thing, and the pub has some serving great times since 1977, something like that. And then they got the advertisement for the daycare right on the same big sign there, just right below the liquor thing. It says, "Inquiring little minds want to know." That's the name of the daycare. Yeah, well, inquiring little minds are going to be wanting to know about what kind of good times are being served since 1977, and why so many people are walking into that liquor store. It's just insane.
Then they want packaging labeling done.
Well, there again, I don't have much to say about that. Record keeping and reporting requirements. My issue is that they keep talking about public safety, that they try to justify their restrictions and stuff to protect public safety. And I want to know where there's any evidence that there's any compromising of public safety with respect to cannabis. Where has there ever been
when
that?
We smoke or we don't become unsafe. We become more happy.
There's nothing like that.
No.
When legalization first happened, there was a big push to make sure that we didn't have people driving on the sidewalks all stoned out of their minds.
Yep.
That's what the one ridiculous, I forget what her company's name is, I'm not going to give her any
now I just drive.
But I mean, she was in a debate with Dana Larson about it, and that's what she had to say, was that we're going to have people driving down the sidewalks killing people because they're just stoned out of their mind.
Well, no.
So, and then for quite a while there was a big push, and you saw it on the Madden commercials,
yes,
including cannabis and all of that.
And alcohol.
And that's reduced and reduced and reduced. There's still some blurbs about other substances, but they really don't say much about the problem of people driving impaired on cannabis, because there is no problem with a bunch of people driving on cannabis.
No.
There are people driving on cannabis, but for the most part, they're responsible people, and it doesn't impair. It is a focusing tool if you use it right. It certainly is that for me.
Yeah.
I don't mean to drone on here.
I did a survey for BC government today, and one of the questions was, should cannabis be sold in the liquor stores? Is this a good idea or a bad idea? And obviously I went, bad idea, right? So they're even inquiring about that right now. So, yes.
It probably
it
probably should, because it's just an inebriant in that sense as alcohol. I mean, it should be a store, not just a liquor store. Maybe it should be a store full of things that people use to have parties with or whatever. I don't really know.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be exclusive, 100%. You should not have to go into a liquor store to get your cannabis. That's for 100% sure.
Yeah.
Cannabis should be available much more widely than is alcohol or commercial tobacco.
Well, this is
So
whatever
whatever
was
rules
about
there-
alcohol. It was about the new regulations. Do you think the new regulations are good and all that stuff? So I'm saying yes.
Well, if they're saying exclusively in liquor stores, I'd say absolutely not. If they're saying as well as other places, I guess so.
I went with that idea.
I mean, full-grown.
That's a bad idea.
If this was your son,
yeah,
and you would probably not allow that because it's a bad idea. Because maybe blah blah blah. But we're not talking about parents here.
Yeah,
we're talking about public servants. We are full-grown adults. Why shouldn't I be able to go and get my alcohol the same place as I get my weed? It should be available, in my opinion.
Drunk people go into the alcohol store to buy more alcohol. Now they're impaired and they might buy some cannabis instead for the first time. Smoke it before they get behind the wheel, and then we have the very first death caused by cannabis.
But driving impaired is already illegal.
I know, but now they're driving impaired with alcohol and cannabis.
But that's a crime.
Because
if it impairs them, that's a crime.
But right now we have nobody's ever killed anybody.
Well, are you telling me nobody's ever combined alcohol with cannabis and driven?
I don't. Well, and killed somebody. And killed somebody.
Well, and killed somebody, whatever. Yes, but I mean, people combining alcohol with cannabis, I've done it.
Yeah, I don't do it. It makes the room spin for me, and that's it.
Whenever that starts happening, I stop driving.
Yeah.
And it has, and I have.
Yeah.
But we just need proper education campaigns around these that aren't stupid and demeaning and stigmatizing.
But we have the campaigns to don't drink and drive, and they still fucking drink and drive.
Of course. Because you're never going to stop and just because you don't have cannabis available in a liquor store doesn't mean that somebody's not going to get some liquor and some cannabis and take them together and drive.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
They might even do that more if they are aware that there's some force out there that thinks it's their parents that's going to tell them that they can't get their weed with their alcohol because they might mix them together and drive. They're going to go and do it because they're because somebody's trying to stop them from doing that.
The rebellion thing.
Yeah, this is the human brain.
Yeah.
And not everybody, but a lot of people. And we got to give credit to a lot of people that have that rebellious gene.
Yeah.
They just do. So many other people are obedient people that got that gene beat the flip out of them when they were younger, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty typical that by 2 years of age...
We are rebellious because we're rebelling against the Cannabis Act.
Hell yeah.
So yeah.
And typically every human being, for the most part, by about 2 years of age, is showing the rebellious side of them.
Yeah.
The Bible says you should kill those people right away.
Oh, really?
For one thing, in the Old Testament. That's another Bargain want to think about that one. But seriously, it is part of our makeup as human beings to rebel. I don't know about other species of animals. I don't know if it's helpful for their evolution or for wherever they are, or their stability, to not have their children rebel. Maybe they all just, fly with the flock or go with the herd, and that's that for that. Maybe they kill the ones that don't when they're 2 years of age. I'm not sure. But for human beings, it is a typical response of almost all of us to want to rebel against the authority that's placed on us.
Yeah.
And maybe it's important for our stability as a society to do that. Maybe that's really important, that the children not just accept what the parents say, carte blanche, and you just be maybe it's important that we rebel, and every generation seems to do it.
Yeah.
So we got to accommodate those people.
There's also grid that says that there's no child-proof tops on booze. Whereas for
There
right?
you go.
There you go,
Man.
right? Yeah, because they just twist off, right? Or they're twisted off for beer or anything, right?
Yeah.
But our cannabis packaging is super tight.
Right? And I don't drink. I almost never am in a liquor store.
Yeah.
But I know that they've got funny, really fancy looking smoothie things.
Yeah.
They've got some really colorful packaging.
Nice.
They got lots of things. There's some of those brands that looks to me like the company is trying to attract a younger, demographic who's going to drink their
Trying to
products.
get the younger people drinking. But actually, there was a study that last week that's saying that younger people are drinking a lot less.
Well, that would be good.
They're learning that it's not that good for you.
Drinking the juice off of rotten berries to dull your brain might not be a great idea on a regular basis.
Your liver, your heart, your brain, yes.
It's typically called poison, right? And that's typically what's going on there. And you're taking a mild, manageable dose of poison that dulls your brain, allowing you to lose some of your inhibitions, perhaps, to feel a little quirky. It'll even make you feel a little warm and fuzzy for a little while.
And if
it does all those things.
If it would kill germs in the cut, imagine what it's doing to your body inside.
I mean, in moderation, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
It is fine.
2 drinks a week, they're saying now.
Yeah.
That's,
What do they know? I don't know.
Well,
I don't know who they are, and I don't know what they know. But I know that whatever they say does not apply to everybody.
Yeah.
That's for damn sure. I'm sure there's people that have lived well over 100 years of age that had more than 2 drinks a week for most of their life.
Maybe.
Oh, not maybe.
Well,
Not maybe.
probably in Italy. Lots of wine.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
North America, when I was growing up, everybody drank.
Yes.
Everybody drank.
But that's because it was.
Do you remember
So
that?
it was about
You go to-
cigarettes too, right?
You go to your friend's
Everybody
place,
smoked.
and they got the porch out back,
Yeah.
and the porch has like piles and piles of empty beer bottles,
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah.
And there's
Bugs
whiskey
flying
and
around
vodka, and tobacco. The walls of some of my friends' houses inside were so yellow from the people smoking all the time.
Yeah, and people had bottles that were turned upside down, and you just open it up a little bit and fill up your glass, and had it all lined up like this. Oh, man.
We lived in a serious alcohol culture for a long time.
Yeah.
Johnny Appleseed started it, right?
Really?
Well, kind of.
Johnny.
See, what happened is that once they discovered America, then a whole bunch of other people came here, and they started setting up little colonies because I guess the people that discovered America decided they could give away parts of it, and so they let people go and have quite big parcels of land, and they were able to homestead there. And there was a number of different requirements, one of which, by the way, just on the side, was that they had to grow cannabis, that they were given land by the federal government. It was very important to the rising economy or the ability to survive for the most part. But another big problem was that many of these people were coming from Europe, where they have very compromised water supplies inland, and so that they weren't. They weren't really wanting to drink the water in a lot of cases, right? Especially standing water. It was a good idea in a lot of cases as well. So one of the things that happened was one of the products that they had to produce was apples. So that sparked a little young entrepreneur. He was actually more of a, I don't know about con artist, but he probably was that too. He was a drifter. He was a grifter. And so he would go into this new forming colony, and he would sell his apple seeds to the people that were there so that they could comply with the federal regulations. And at the same time, he would find lodging with some of the more prominent people in the little village there or whatever, and then he'd probably wear out his welcome, sell out on his seeds, and move on to the next little town. And that was Johnny Appleseed.
Wow.
So the production of apples was for drinking. That was the whole idea.
Apple juice or apple cider?
Apple cider. Well, apple juice, apple cider, same thing. Cider, you just kind of...
cider's got alcohol, isn't it?
No, the cider becomes alcohol.
Oh, the cider becomes alcohol. Okay.
It becomes cider when it's gone sideways.
Yeah.
Because they didn't have refrigeration.
Yeah.
So they get a bunch of apples. Now, apples, by the way, just a little aside there, you plant an apple seed from a particular type of apple, you don't get an apple tree that has that type of apple. You get an
at
apple
different
tree
apples
that's adapted to that ground that it's in, and 90% of them are not really edible at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not tender or not sweet. They're not edible
like
at all.
a crab apple.
When they come up with an edible apple,
Yeah.
they start cloning it, and that's how we have all the apples in the store that are by those names. That's how the farmer gets those.
Like
the growers have to buy clones of that. They can't plant the seeds from those apples. They won't get those apples.
Oh, wow.
So that's how the apple industry works. But so they produced a lot of apples so that they could produce a lot of juice or cider. The juice or cider was sideways most of the time.
Yeah.
Before very
There's no
long.
refrigeration.
And they were drunk all the time. Everybody was drunk all the time. It was an alcohol culture for a long, long time.
Wow, eh?
Yeah.
Wow, too bad there wasn't a Johnny Cannabis seed. Spend lots of pot plants, get everybody high.
There kind of was.
There was.
There kind of was.
Was that Greg?
Well, he was marijuana man,
Yeah,
and to be fair, Mark and Greg certainly sold more seeds into remote communities than I ever did.
And Tommy John. Did Tommy John get busted for seeds and bongs?
No, it was just for bongs.
Oh, it was just for bongs? Okay.
But I did the Freedom Tour 4 years in a row. The Freedom Tour was sponsored by the Vancouver Seed Bank and by a wonderful person, Jay Green and Tim from Head to Head in Saskatoon and in Regina. So I sold seeds. And now I sold them real cheap because that's how I believed it should be. They came to me real cheap, so I sold them real cheap, and it's a win-win-win. I financed the Freedom Tour with the sale of cannabis seeds. I went from town to town across Canada. When I would first arrive, I would usually have some type of a meeting in somebody's living room with the local growers and activists, and the buzz was there that I had good seeds from Vancouver and from Saskatchewan, and so I did put a lot of seeds into a lot of small communities, places where they wouldn't order them. So they would sometimes, the growers in the small towns would make a trip to Vancouver, and they'd go and sit with Greg at the desk there and order some seeds.
Yeah.
That was a very common thing for people from out of town coming to visit Greg and buying seeds there.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to order them online. I mean, they were in the back of Mark Emery's Cannabis Culture magazines. It was all the way you could order all the strains.
All the seeds that you
but
wanted.
a lot of people in those small towns, they did not want to put their address anywhere like that to do with anything.
Yeah.
And so they were really coveting good quality seeds that they could get anonymously.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of a
Nice.
Johnny Cannabis seed
for
4 years there.
Yeah. And you're almost 100 years old.
I am. Trying to get younger every day.
Trying to get younger, yeah. We are staying younger with the cannabis plant because that's why we look so good, right?
I believe that.
Yeah.
I believe that.
It
It's
does.
helped me a lot in my life. Maybe it stunted my growth so that I'm not an old crudgety fart now. I'm still behaving like I'm a teenager. I'm not sure.
That's a brain thing.
I don't know. It's hard to know, what I would have been like without cannabis. I've been
Yeah.
smoking since I was 15. But I still constantly live in awe. I don't take any of this for granted. Life is the most incredible thing to me. To be floating around on this planet, well, not floating, we're zooming. We're zooming through space on this rocky, water-covered, marble or whatever, terrestrial thing there, where life has formed, and we are so far away from, any other life that's formed anywhere.
Yeah.
We've been searching for it for a super long time. More and more, the science is showing that the actual combining of atomic matter into what becomes proteins is extremely complicated. It is likely very rarely ever successful. But in a universe where there's probably trillions of possibilities with respect to land masses like ours that could develop that life, could develop amino acids, when atomic matter becomes amino acids, the amino acids can combine themselves in such a way as to produce what we call a protein, but there's a folding of that protein that has to happen in an instant once that combination is achieved. It's like having thousands of random possible units to choose from needing to put 250 of them together in a particular order, and then having it be able to somehow fold itself into a protein that can exist and survive and make other crude copies of itself. That process looks to be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
So maybe even if you have water, fire, volcanoes, oxygen. Well, you wouldn't have oxygen problem. Well, you would have oxygen because oxygen exists without plants.
Yeah.
Plants take carbon dioxide and turn it into oxygen.
Yeah.
But whatever, the carbon that is necessary for our life and all life on this planet, it's all based on the carbon atom. That seems to be very, very difficult to achieve. And I've thought for a long time that even if life was fairly easily started, that on this planet it took a very long time for it to result in people like you and for people. Sure, you got squirrels and raccoons with personalities, and they all recognize each other's differences, and maybe even to the level of ants and mosquitoes, who knows. But life on this planet for 4 billion years of rotating around the sun 4 billion times.
That's a lot of spins.
It's only in the last recent while, comparatively to that time frame, where the life on this planet has become sentient and able to build pyramids and other structures that happened over the last, who knows, maybe even a couple 100,000 years, that people like us were able to manipulate the environment and were able to be aware of the environment to the point of studying the stars, seeing the patterns, recognizing many things to do with the cosmos. All of those things are relatively new with respect to life evolving on this planet, and probably a difficult thing to achieve. So who knows? I think with trillions of possibilities, that if it could happen here once, it can happen elsewhere. So there is obviously got to have been, if not now, and we're also talking billions of years of the universe, right? So if there's 13.5 billion years in this universe, based on their calculations since the initial start, when that super density became less dense and is what we have today, during those 13 billion years, I think there's been all kinds of possibilities, trillions of possibilities over 13 billion years. There must have been other life forms evolve that could be aware and manipulate the environment and come up with technology and all the rest of it that like we have.
Well, there's apparently some really large people that used to live in Nevada. They're 8 feet, 9 feet. They found skeletons of them. They have their
I've seen all that.
They have their skulls. Nowadays don't have the full bodies anymore, but
well, and why couldn't we grow bigger?
And they were apparently cannibals, and the Apaches locked them in this cave and built up this fire and burned them inside there. And when they go there today, you can actually see the burn marks are still on the rocks and everything where they find actual skeletons and skulls and everything. Wow,
so many stories like that. And you're right. Even on this planet, there's been possibilities of intelligent civilizations arising and falling, many times over the millions of years. And the oceans cover most of the earth. Yeah, and it moves around.
Down below, there's a lot of stuff that we've never seen.
100%.
And who's to say that somebody could be hiding down there, or there could be something down there as another civilization? You never know.
Maybe there's enough life and past life and potential life on this planet that we really don't need to concern ourselves with what's going on other planets.
I know there's a lot of different lives here. A bug's life, cow's life, dog's life.
So many lives.
Whatever, gerbil's life, whatever. There's
trillions
so much
and trillions and trillions and trillions. And most of it's even single cells.
Life or bacteria's life.
That's like little single-celled organisms. There's trillions of those. So this planet is teeming with life.
No wonder we get visited.
It all started way back billions of years ago with these amino acids. In this version, and maybe there was a creator who went boink. Animals, humans, there you go, off you go. Maybe.
I don't
think what the science shows. I don't know. Who knows? And even if there was such a God that did all of that, then it's not just a God of this planet, but it's a God of the universe, somehow able to be aware of all of the vastness of the universe and all the things that are in it, and all the places where life has arisen and has arisen. Maybe Well, where did that God come from? Is the next question. You know, where did that come? Oh, it just always was. Well, just always was never answers the question for me. You know, so I don't know. These are questions that never get to be answered probably in my lifetime. Who really knows what any of this is all about? But the point that I was making to start with is I live in awe of this. I'm really kind of aware most days that, man, I'm unique to be alive.
Yeah,
you know,
we all are.
To be one of these human beings right now during this time frame on the planet that's alive and doing shit. And that's the other really cool thing is that we're all individuals.
Yeah, there's so many more other human beings.
There's only one Glenn Wells.
Wow.
You know, there's only one Neil Magnuson. There's people that have our names.
Yes.
But they're certainly not us. There could never be another one
our
of
DNA
you.
are different, or something like that. Our fingerprints are always different too, right?
Well, your whole experience in life is different. What shaped you all the way through your life. So by the time you're 50 years old or more, you're a unique character.
Yeah.
And there are some incredible characters that have lived incredible lives.
Yeah.
Some amazing personalities. You know, so much. You know, and even
I had to get that in there.
And even the animals. You know, I mean, you could spend a lifetime just being so enthralled with birds.
Oh,
Many people
birds,
do.
yes.
Or other life forms.
Those are bird watchers, right?
Bird watchers.
Yes. But
People spend most of their lives underwater, exploring underwater, and there's so much there to learn and see.
Anthropologists.
So yeah, man. I mean, I live
dinosaur people.
kind of a childlike awe of the fact that there's life, that I'm alive, that I'm a human, and how all the other things that we're talking about.
Some of the things that we're not being visited would be crazy, because if we have all this life,
I don't think that's crazy at all.
Somebody might want to see what's going on down here,
Sure.
right? How it's working out,
and
right?
maybe there's technologies that we haven't discovered yet that would allow for the traversing of, you know, vast distances. Distances. But we don't have that.
Nope.
You know, and even at the speed of light, it's really slow. The speed of light is really slow. It takes years for light to get from here to the nearest planet or the nearest star that has other planets.
Yeah.
So
all that light that we're seeing is millions and millions of years old when you look up in the sky.
That's
millions of years old.
Yeah.
That's
Most of it is.
All that time. That's not just the star tonight. That was a star a million years ago, or 20,000 years ago, or whatever. Something. Yeah, that light is
so long, so
never
far.
new. It's old.
So the distances are so vast. If the possibilities of life arising to the point of intelligence like it has here is as scarce as what it's looking like it is, then getting to the next star system isn't going to do us much good. We might find some microbes, but even that's looking like it's going to be doubtful.
Bring our own stuff and adapt.
So, you know, how can they visit here? I mean, if the Fermi paradox, if this galaxy that we're in has been around for about 13 billion years. It's a very, or 10 to 13 billion years. It's a very, very old galaxy, the Milky Way.
Yeah.
If there was life like us arising, and if we extrapolate, if we're able to survive and continue on the trajectories that we are technologically, you would think that within 1,000 years for sure, we would be able to traverse large sections of the galaxy, that we would have probes out there, we would have lots of things, you know, expanding our fingerprints.
We do.
We do. We have some.
Yeah,
a little
we got
bit.
Voyager.
A little bit.
Voyager's out there, and there's another one that went out there.
We have a couple of small probes.
Yeah.
But
now we have that big,
but
huge
1,000 years from now?
Now we have a big, huge telescope that can see deeper. And then
we can see a lot of stuff out there. Although there's a lot we can't see as well.
Yeah.
If it's not lit up, we can't see it. Whether or not other civilizations would be able to detect Voyager, that's the question, right? So 1,000 years from now, we would likely have colonized other places around us. Maybe the way it's looking, they're going to try to do that, and if humans try to do something, Mars and the Moon and beyond. There's some of the other moons and terrestrial bodies within the solar system that look like they might be
I remember that
conducive for
old
life.
show Space 1999 with Moonbase Alpha.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Right? They had actual buildings on the moon and dealing with stuff.
It might be a failed thing to try to do, but I don't think so. I think if humans are really wanting to do that, they'll do it. They'll figure out a way.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be.
Now we can make subway systems for the moon and stuff like that.
Well, they'd all have to be contained, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. There's no atmosphere to breathe on the moon. Mars, not much, and it's probably not something that's very, acceptable to what we.
Yeah.
We are so in tune with this environment. Our atmosphere is full of all kinds of stuff that we need and we use. It's full of all kinds of stuff that would kill us quickly if we didn't have the right immune systems to deal with it. If we find another planet where there is some life going on there and there's microbes, we will not be going out there and breathing in those microbes, I guarantee you. That their atmosphere, their microbes will not be suited to us, will not give us what we need, and will likely kill us fast.
Yeah.
So, any prospects of colonizing other places are going to be in self-contained units.
Yeah, self-filtered air and
all of
oxygen
that.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
It would have to be, in my opinion.
But we have a technology that will do that nowadays.
So the point with the Fermi paradox is that 1,000 years from now, if we are that advanced and we continue to be able to advance, if we don't kill ourselves off or have some asteroid hit us or who knows what that could stop the development that's been going on the way it has been, if we continue on, we will likely put a big enough imprint on our little section of the galaxy here that it would be noticeable by other intelligent.
We've been here for more than 1,000 years, so.
Well, I'm talking about 1,000 years from now. Because the first 1,000 years of humans, we didn't do much that would attract other attention.
But we got from the 1900s to the 2000s, and
that's 100 years.
Is it? That's only no.
Well, but
So it's 100 years. Oh yeah. So it's 1,000 years.
For the last 100 years, we've been doing pretty good with technology.
Okay.
If that trajectory continues for 1,000 more years, we should be making an imprint on this solar system that would be noticeable by other intelligences that are within this galaxy and maybe even outside of this galaxy. And we detect nothing like that.
But we've got from 1,000 BC to 2,000 BC. Now we're at 2023.
What are you talking about with our technology?
Okay.
From here, where we are with computers and all of that, if we survive another 1,000 years and the trajectories are able to continue, then we should have put a pretty big mark on this on our solar system and this area of our galaxy, and that should be noticeable by other intelligences if they're out there. And here we are trying to find that, and we don't see it anywhere. We don't see any evidence that any other society has risen to the point of being able to expand its footprint beyond its planet. We don't even find any evidence of any life anywhere yet.
I think with the space stations, we're going to eventually start building ships outside of the planet so that we can fuel them and they can go farther and not have as much damage done to the environment as it takes to get up into space, right?
I believe we're going to do all those things.
Yeah, and
we're going to send out generational ships. We're going to send out a lot of ships that don't have humans but have AI. There's going to be a lot of that stuff going on.
Well, I can just see something bad. The AI gets a virus and some alien picks up on it, thinks that these people on this blue planet
are really they're probably all right.
This AI, right? What was it? Even Space Odyssey had Hal go a little crazy.
Yeah, 100%. Those movies are probably talking about shit that could be real.
Well, we already know that the AI can mess up. We've got viruses. You can get a computer virus just right here. Somebody can send you a virus, right?
Yeah.
So. I don't know about sending an AI out there to say, hi, we're here about Earth.
But we will.
You just never know what's
We absolutely will. We'll be sending out probes that are able to, communicate stuff. I mean, there again, they would have to be, hopefully we will be, so sophisticated that if we did encounter some other intelligent life form, that we'd be able to have some sort of a translator to be able to communicate.
Well, that would be hard. Maybe they would have to have some translator or something.
One of the two.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to have a translator because I don't understand those squeaks you're making.
Or clicks or whatever it is. Yeah.
Clicks or squeaks or who knows what.
Yeah.
We managed to use our vocal cords as best we can to create a whole bunch of different sounds.
And there's different ways because we have different languages, right? Yes.
Many different languages.
Babies could cry, cats meow, dogs bark, cricket chirp.
Oh, I'm sure almost all of the animal species are talking to each other.
Of course. Yeah.
They make sounds that communicate a lot.
Yeah.
So, and what was I saying? There's fish.
Fish.
They recently discovered fish
can talk
that have vocal intonations of the quantity similar to what we have, which is rare in any other animal species. And they appear to be talking to each other, having conversations with each other.
Wow.
I don't know if budgies are having conversations.
Whales do it. With clicks and
Ever had budgies?
Yeah, Isabel has a buddy. Yeah.
Well, get another one and watch them talk to each other.
Oh, really?
Back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And
Oh.
I don't know what they're saying. I don't know what they're communicating. But they're communicating something to each other, you know. And sometimes they say shit that makes the other one mad, you know, and away they go. It's like, yeah, we're very, very complex beings.
Yeah.
And, we may well never find any other complex beings out there, which doesn't matter. What matters is that we are very complex beings in an amazing universe with amazing stuff here. And, you know, you could spend a fair bit of your time.
Bugs don't even see the way that we see. They see differently, right?
Totally
so
different.
they see this place as something totally different than what we see it
Cats
as.
see differently. Dogs see differently. They don't have the same amount of cones to discern colors like
No,
we
but
do.
they can tell humans or ways.
They rely more on scent than they do on sight.
Okay.
They can smell you coming a mile away, and they know who you are right away by your smell.
Yeah.
They're highly in tune to their environment.
We individually smell differently. I
guess
hell
yeah.
To all animals.
To animals we do. To dogs and cats and stuff we do for sure. I'm not sure about fish. I'm not sure if the fish can smell at all.
Kind of in the water.
They probably can. They probably sense different
something. There might be
scents in the water for sure.
Something, yes. Yeah.
Sense and scent. Different, you know, they sense a scent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two different words are similar.
And you got scent in your pocket. You don't know what to do.
Gotta love the English language. Well, what are we talking about? It's not THC at this point, but it is a little bit of truth with some hope. And
this is what happens when we start smoking THC. We just go on topic. That's what happens. Talk about things that, you know.
It's great. We should be talking about 420.
Yes.
And we were talking about
days.
Cosmological things.
24 days to go.
24 days. Oh my God.
I know.
For some people, that's like you can't go fast enough.
That's Krista C.W. Parker, the one lady who makes my
there's a bunch of people right now.
She's coming from the island for the first time. She wants to meet us. She sent out our tie-dye t-shirts already and everything.
There's a lot of people very excited,
yeah.
And they would be happy if it was next week.
I know.
As for me, please give me another month. We're going to get her all done. It is going to be a great show. But
and go to 4W.
But never enough time.
420 protest 420 at gmail.com if you want a booth or like to sponsor the famous 420 Vancouver.
That's right.
We're coming along. Are we coming along good? You're
everything's going along good.
Yeah.
We got first
I've had
aid
people
people
ask
on
me
track.
a few times. I told people where to go a few times. They'd reach out to me personally. How do I get a booth?
We need more promotion as always. We have a bunch more booths we'd like to sell. It would help. I really don't want to put my own personal money into putting this event on. Hopefully that won't happen because I don't have a lot anyway. But anyhow, and that's mostly why I don't want that to happen.
Yeah, most of
it. But we are going to make sure it goes off, and I think we've pretty much got to the point where we know we're going to be able to fund the basics of what we've got going on here. If we had more, we would do more. If we end up with a surplus, it's all going to go to mainstream charities, as has been done by 420s for a long, long time. This is a different group organizing it. This is not cannabis culture anymore.
No.
It's not a not-for-profit, but it's going to be treated that way. That this is the people's money that's going to be used as sponsorship and to purchase booths. That money will be respected.
And I'm sure this company could use a tax write-off. That would be some sort of charity tax write-off for doing something like that, right? Yeah, right?
Oh, yeah, win-win. Everybody gets to win. That's what we want. That's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
So booths are basically $300 a piece. There might be a couple of $500 ones left. Excuse me. There wasn't very many of those anyway because we decided to make just about all the booths just the regular price. That's just what we did.
And there was a rumor going around that Mercules had faked that video that says he's coming to Florida Park.
Really?
The person who's made that comment has reached out to me and personally apologized to me and realized that this was not a fake video. It was on his Instagram stories and everything, right? But some people in Ontario, they thought, oh, this is fake. This is from 52 weeks ago. So we had a little bit of thing going, but yes, Mercules is definitely coming. So.
And he's also going to do another video for us right away.
He's going to do another video for us.
And we have other acts that are coming are going to put out videos. We'll be releasing those.
Yeah, I've got those other videos, but I'm waiting for the Mercs. We put them on all three
well, I'll talk to Javis about that. We want to have a little bit of strategic timing on how we release these things.
Okay, good.
And, just keep the hype going, get people excited about it, because this is our big one every year. This is the one where we really get to gather a whole bunch of people, and when you do that, the media pays attention to you.
Yep.
And already I did an interview with City TV I thought was great. that they put in there what I had to
pissed
say.
Off. Like that lady went and said that the Sunset Beach is going to be happening when we've been told that there's going to be fencing up, that nobody is allowed to do this. Why didn't that reporter check with the city? And is the city going to allow the person that was sending those emails in to do his event and had us scared away like this? That's
yeah. I mean, I wasn't terribly happy with the story. I was
fair.
happy that she put in there the things that I said that I thought were important.
Yeah, she did.
For an activist to get those things stated on a main media outlet, that's what we live for.
Yeah.
I was happy with that. She reported a bunch of inaccuracies to do with the other group.
And who is that person for the World Cannabis? Like,
Well, I know who she is.
Oh, you do? I've never seen
World
that person.
Cannabis is two people, basically. They don't have a big team.
Oh, okay. Is
you
it
know,
that him and her? That
him and
person?
her, yeah.
Oh, that's
and,
it. eh?
she's a better spokesperson, I guess. So, although I'm not sure that he couldn't have done a better job, but whatever.
I feel like running the city myself.
They're a bunch of liars and scammers, and they've ripped off a number of people over the years with what they've done, and we certainly cannot and will not support them in what they're doing there because of all of that, and personal attacks on many of us at Cannabis Culture and our efforts as well. So we don't support them at all.
No.
That City TV news article accredited them with a bunch of inaccuracies that they said out there. They said that they had organized previous 420s at the art gallery, but they outgrew it, and that's why they were now moving to the beach. That is such bullshit.
And that he was the official one. Yeah,
When we moved to Sunset Beach, and by we I mean 420, the Vancouver 420 that everybody knows and loves, that has grown into this amazing epic event. When we moved from the art gallery to Sunset Beach because we outgrew the art gallery.
Yeah. Cypress Hill wasn't there for World Cannabis. Cypress Hill was there for Cannabis.
For the next
also.
couple of years, that other group tried to have a little 420 at the art gallery while we were at Sunset Beach.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go there and see it, but I'm told they were met with the police and that they weren't able to have their events. If they did have their events, they were small and inconsequential, and they certainly never outgrew the art gallery to need to go to the beach at this time. So they're really, and they're saying that they're the official 420. They're taking credit for the good work that was done by myself and many other, of the organizers of 420. It's really quite appalling to myself.
And me too.
It's disgusting.
I'm angry. I want to do something about it, but I've been asked not to. So.
I don't deal in anger too much. I kind of
no,
ignore
but
what
we
they're
got
doing.
to stand up for
I
ourselves,
hear you, man.
guys, right? Yeah.
I hear you. You feel, and I don't wish them ill.
No.
I mean, I really hope they change the world with what they're doing. That they have a great event that maybe influences some politicians to change the Cannabis Act or whatever. I don't know. Because I don't wish ill on too many people.
No.
Prohibitionists, yes, but other people trying to put on cannabis events, I don't think so. I mean, whatever. For all I know, his intentions are good. And for all I know, his reasons in his own twisted mind were justified for the problems that he caused us in the past, and they were many. So, I give everybody the credit of the benefit of the doubt, and I don't spend a lot of time on this kind of stuff.
Well, we will be going down there to check on that week to see if they.
Well, I'm sure I'll be finding out. Yeah, and we'll see if they put fencing up.
Because that's not cool. That's not cool. That they.
So much of it is not cool, and we're trying to be cool. We're pot people.
Yeah, we're trying to be cool.
Cool is what it's all about here. We do cool
stuff. So
stuff.
come to 420 Thornton Park.
Yeah.
And see the world's biggest joint rolled. 65 pounds.
Being rolled at one time, and you get to witness it. It's not like we're bringing in some pre-rolled
Empire
thing.
Papers, too, right?
Empire Papers is providing a 40-foot by 5-foot rolling paper that's going to roll this stuff up.
Do we have any results on the first week trial?
It hasn't happened yet. It was.
I thought it was
it's
now.
Last
weekend.
I think it was starting yesterday.
Oh, it started yesterday.
That's what he said on the 27th.
All right.
So I'll talk to.
The 27th. Yes.
I'll talk to Dale, and we'll see about that.
Oh, wow. See how it worked out?
See if there was any lessons learned that will help them do it here.
I wonder who gets that joint.
A good portion of it, I believe, is being donated to the Cannabis Substitution Program.
Oh, that joint? The test one?
The test one, yeah.
The test one, cool.
Yeah, the other one we're going to burn most of it.
Yeah.
There'll be a roach left. There'll be a roach left, and I won't get that either.
That'd be fucking like this.
it'll be signed by a bunch of celebrities as well. I don't think anybody will ever. You might take a bit out of it.
Ask us to sign it, are they?
You can take some out of it and roll it up and smoke it. And still have the bulk of the ropes there.
You'll probably roll like 20 joints out of the road.
Well, a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Oh man, a lot more than that. If it's a foot long and it's a foot in diameter,
that's a lot of
that's
weed.
2 pounds of weed right there, especially if it's ground up.
Yeah.
So that's 1,000 grams.
Wow.
That's 1,500 joints, depending on how you do them. But,
we should add some distil in there so it'll all stay together.
Maybe. Who knows what they'll do? It'll probably end up in one of the cannabis museums.
Maybe.
I would imagine.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then somebody.
Guinness World Book of Records will be there. If you've never ever seen Guinness World Book Records, come to Vancouver 420. Yeah. Right, and you'll be able to meet people.
It's a big event.
Guinness, and to walk around. They have these jackets on. I think they have a gold jacket or blue jacket or something. And it says Guinness. I've seen them once before. Yeah, just once. Oh, it was in a mall for the world's largest carrot cake. That's where we're
similar but completely different.
Yeah, because we use that carrot cake after 420 because everybody's going to be hungry. But yeah, that's where I saw them, was on the world's largest carrot cake.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Yeah, we all got a slice of it afterwards and stuff, so it was pretty cool.
420 always is such an epic day, and this year there's so many people wanting to contribute from across Canada that it's just going to be amazing.
Yeah, I've had people reach out to me, Glenn, how do I get a booth? How do I get a booth? So I've been helping out. So
420protest420 at gmail.com is how you get a booth.
Yeah.
It's also how you decide to sponsor. There's some sponsorship packages available. There's going to be a huge screen that's operating on the stage up in behind. It's going to rotate a whole bunch of different ads for people, but also it's going to do live streaming from the crowd. It's going to be other particular shots of the band as they play. Lots of different stuff like that. Regular entertainment.
Yeah, send me the words to Cannabis too. So
you want that, eh?
Yeah, we can practice. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I could be the younger Neil when you know.
That's right.
And carry it on for you, right?
You could.
No, send it to me in Messenger. Well, because then I can look at it constantly. I can lose a piece of paper.
Well, I'm not even going to let you take this paper anymore.
Okay, well, I can take a picture of it.
You can take a picture of it.
See,
you can get it any way you want.
That's what I'll do then. I'll take a picture of it, right?
So it starts, Cannabis, the sacred plant of life, right?
Yeah.
Of peace, sorry. Sacred plant of peace. With healing powers, it helps our eyes to see. So I wrote that because the initial medical benefit of cannabis was in dealing with glaucoma. Mm-hmm. And that was what it became a little bit famous for in the early days.
Okay.
Was that it could help people with their eyesight.
Yeah. So that's why you wrote.
That's why I wrote that.
To see.
So it helps our eyes to see. That's why that line goes in there.
Okay.
So Cannabis, a sacred plant of peace with healing power, it helps our eyes to see, and with glowing joints. We make the points. Because that's what our protest is. So this is referring to what we're doing there that day. We make the points with our glowing joints.
Yeah.
And with glowing joints, we make the points that the true north, and everywhere really, but we're here in the true north, really. That's what they consider Canada, and we're supposed to be a free country. And here we are wasting billions of Canadian tax dollars, ruining millions of Canadian lives to try to protect industry from having to compete with this amazing medicinal herb, and that's the only real reason for it at all. And so in the true north, where we're supposed to be free, we are not free. So there's that. I'm gonna have to use a different piece of paper.
Yeah,
we're gonna go on the second page.
It's okay. 24 days.
That's not enough time.
Well, it went out for me to memorize the song.
Well, we're gonna practice it once.
Yes.
Right here and now.
Oh, we're right. Oh,
that's why I'm
better write. Okay, you better write it out then. Yeah. You better write it out then.
That's what I'm doing. Unrehearsed, unprepared.
Yeah.
We just do things on the spot.
We're on the cuff. That's the best way to do a show too, because you just never know what you're going to watch or what you're going to see.
That's right.
Because it's not scripted, right?
It's not scripted. It's just on the spot, off the cuff.
Our ex-producer was asking if we shared a link to a company of last week's show, and we go, no. We did talk about one of the candy bar contributors, one of your donators.
Yeah, in fact,
yeah, there you go. Put the hat on. There you go.
A nice donator to the Cannabis Substitution Program. I meant to do this last week. She gave me a nice little bag of stuff, that edible gummies and other things. I was going to show them off.
Yeah.
Now we've given them all away because that's what we have to do here. So with Wise Red Eyes.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what we get criticized for. Oh, that stuff's illegal. It makes your eyes red.
Okay,
well, what's wrong with having it red?
Okay.
We criticize.
Okay.
This war against our family.
Oh, that's it. And why? That's what? What's that word?
And with Wise Red Eyes.
With Wise. Okay.
With Wise Red Eyes, we criticize this war against our family.
Okay.
Or family, or favorite tree. I also throw that in there sometimes.
Well, family's good.
I say both of them lots of times.
All right. But which one are we doing in this rehearse? Are we doing family or family?
Now you need to know the details.
Yeah, because I don't know which word to sing. You might just say.
That's right. Well, no, see, I'm better than that.
Okay.
If I'm going to be doing it with somebody else, and I can't deviate from the script.
Okay, all right.
That wouldn't be fair.
So it's going to be family then?
Yeah, it's going to be family.
Okay, against our families, right? Because there's more than one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but we're all one family.
Yeah, okay.
So, the human family here.
Okay.
Cannabis, the drug war's a bust.
Yeah. The drug war's a bust.
And that's just a play on words.
Yeah.
Because, the drug war is all about busting people. That's what they like to call it.
Yeah.
We're going to bust you. Well, you think that's right that your public servant decides that because you've chosen to have a particular substance because you think it's probably going to do something you want, that they should break you for that? They should do something to bust you? It's a nasty term.
It is.
That is appropriate because that is what they're doing. They really do break people many times, and that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make the punishment for having weed far, far greater than any harm that they ever even suggest that weed is going to do to you. So it's like, well, hey, you free citizen over there, you've got something that could hurt you. So I'm going to hurt you even worse.
And bust you.
If the whole point was that the citizen doesn't want to be hurt, and the public servant is trying to help the citizen not be hurt, to hurt them, to keep themselves from hurting themselves less than you're hurting them, well, you can just see where this goes. I mean, it's
okay, so the drug war is a bust.
Yeah, and then another Cannabis.
Okay.
Because that is the song.
Yeah. The Sacred Plant of Peace.
The Sacred Plant of Peace.
Okay.
So it's not a difficult song.
No, not so far. I know all those words.
I thought that, it was respectful.
So that's it?
That's it.
That's it?
That's the whole thing.
Oh, all right.
So I'll do it once.
Well, okay.
I'll do it once. You can listen to it.
All right.
So, cannabis, the sacred plant of peace. I'm up too high.
Yeah.
With healing power, it helps our eyes to see. And with glowing joints, we make the points that the true north should be free. And with wise red eyes, we criticize the war against our family. Oh, cannabis, the drug war's a bust. Oh, cannabis, we stand here high and proud for thee.
I knew it wasn't that. Oh, yeah. We stand here high and proud for thee.
We stand here high, but mostly proud for thee. And then, oh, cannabis, the sacred plant of peace.
All right. I think we
You
can
want to
do
try
this.
it once?
Yeah, ready?
All right.
Okay, together?
Together. Now, you're going to let me start because I got to get the right key this time.
You do it, and I'll come in.
Oh, cannabis, the sacred plant of peace, with healing powers, it helps our eyes to see, and with glowing joints, we make the points that the true north should be free. And with wise red eyes, we criticize the war against our family. You can see how I can say favorite tree right there. Yeah. Oh, cannabis, the drug war's a bust. because it should be over, right? Oh, cannabis, we stand here high and proud for thee. Oh, cannabis, the sacred plant. It's just a plant of peace. So, I mean, how could you ever, how could you want to prohibit a plant that is like a sacred plant, and it's all about peace and love? And for them to have said originally, going into prohibition back in the 20s and 30s, that it was something that created violence in people, was just such a complete opposite to what the actual truth of the matter was. And I guess they were sophisticated, those people that pulled this off. And I guess they understood back then that, if you're going to tell a lie to the public, make it a really big lie. Mm-hmm. And then you'll get a bunch of people falling for that. And so that's what they did. And it took 30 or more years for the American public to figure it out. They had William Randolph Hearst for a long time there, in the early beginnings of Prohibition, writing stories that fueled that Prohibition, that justified it. He was in cahoots with all of these other people that were about to profit off of Prohibition. Mm-hmm. And so he wrote stories where, and he's a journalist, but he's a bloody yellow journalist, because, and that's not fair to the color yellow, because he would lie in these stories and just include a little line where somebody had committed a violent act and say that they were seen prior to the event consuming a reefer.
That's a truck, right? A frozen truck is a reefer.
A reefer. And that's how he did it. And there's a huge volume of these stories that show where he introduced cannabis as the subtle motive for the axe murdering of parents and the horrible crimes that he would say that with. And that really helped to shape the public's opinion of it, of what cannabis was all about.
This was government, and everybody believed government back then.
Oh man,
right?
They scared people a lot. Yeah. It was this crazy, in Canada here, Emily Murphy, one of the suffragette judges back in the day, helped get women to vote and what have you. She wrote a book about the illegal drug trade, and her chapter on marijuana, The New Menace, was just so full of
crap,
hyperbole and lies.
Well, nobody knew right back then.
They
I guess
didn't.
So they just went with whatever
Nobody
they
knew
were
at
told.
all.
Yeah.
In the 70s,
people did. The indigenous people of the countries and stuff they did.
We shouldn't say nobody. The truth is, there's always some people that are ahead of the curve and understand things. Yeah. But the vast majority of the Canadian public and the American public, they bought the whole thing. Mm-hmm. That there was, this evil, crazy drug on its way up from Mexico that was driving people completely insane. There was horrible things and violence associated with it. And the children were the first ones to get involved. And oh my God, we got to save the children. And this horrible demon drug. And because of William Randolph Hearst, you see, there wasn't a lot of media back in those days. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like it is today, where you have so many media sources and so many different people are watching so many different sources, and it wasn't like that at all. No social media, and no internet. Just a few. There was the major newspaper publications that were in the city that you were in. And that was pretty much monopolized by William Randolph Hearst, who had his newspapers as the major newspaper in many different cities across America. And then there was like Life magazine and Time magazine and Maclean's magazine. And the reason I'm numbering them like that is because you can count them on your fingers.
Yeah, there's a lot.
How many there were. There weren't very many. You go to the store now, and there's a huge rack full of hundreds of different possible, auto magazines and women's magazines and muscle building magazines and all these different magazines.
Just pictures.
Back in the day, when all this was forming the public's opinion, there wasn't very many media outlets, and they were all those that did. When they said anything about cannabis, marijuana, they didn't call it cannabis. Yeah. It was all exaggerated. It was, what they do with media. They hype everything, right? You've got to find the exaggerated more. Yeah. And so cannabis became this topic where it was demonized as being the substance that was creating all of this violence in our society. And it took 30 years to undo that. Yeah. So for 30 years, all this infrastructure grew up with businesses aligned on prohibition, making their money off of prohibition, and all these other businesses aligned to protect the main idea. So the banks and the insurance companies and those places, they wouldn't give loans to people if there was drugs involved. They would, cannabis was,
it was bad.
Yeah, it was really bad. You couldn't get a business license. You couldn't. All of these different groups conspired against anything to do with cannabis because of all of the hype that was brought up, wrongly, of course, of it being the substance causing all this fun. Meanwhile, they're drinking and shooting each other in the streets and all the rest of the stuff that goes with alcohol, and they're worried about marijuana coming up and causing violence in their society. Crazy, but that's how it all went down, and so
here we are today.
Here we are today, and so what happened was that they had these. Finally, they had these government commissions look into it. Here in Canada, the Schaefer Commission. Down in the States, here in the States, it was the Schaefer Commission. Up here, it was the. How can I forget that one?
I don't know. You want me to Google it?
Oh my God! This is
what's it called?
So embarrassing for a pot activist to not remember what the name is of
the Canadian what?
The Canadian study on cannabis that happened back in
the Canadian
2000.
Study on cannabis
Senate report.
In 2000.
It had a name because there was a guy that was running the Senate committee that was looking into it. And it's just boggling my mind. I must be getting senile at this point.
Yeah, it doesn't even say in here.
Really?
Yeah, marijuana use amongst drivers in Canada 2000 to 2015. Marijuana use amongst drivers.
Commission.
Yeah.
It was called the Ledane Commission.
Ledane Commission?
It was called the Ledane Commission.
Okay.
And I don't know why, I'm getting old. That's all I can tell you. That's all I can tell you.
Yeah.
I'm getting senile over here.
He said it, not me.
Going to be looking into the MAID program right away now. Well, that's a big one, like forgetting the emperor wears no clothes.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I probably will later on because I'm getting more and more. You don't get less senile, do you?
More senile? I don't know. No, with cannabis, we shouldn't get senile at all. I believe we're supposed to be creating
There are times, Glenn, when I look out there and I'm sure I can see denial.
Denial. I see denial. I see denial. Well, if you're seeing denial, you're
getting
in the wrong place.
Never been there. Would love to go there.
Yeah, I've never been there.
Seems
I've
amazing.
seen pictures of it.
It seems amazing except you're not allowed to go in. Apparently, you can't climb the stairs or some of that stuff.
Was the Nile River a very
not just
long
the
river?
Nile. I don't want to see the Nile. I want to see the pyramids.
Oh, you want to see the pyramids?
I saw an interesting meme.
Because you said the Nile
today. I think I saw it. Where there's the pyramid, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna draw on my paper.
Like that triangle thing?
Yeah, there's like the triangle pyramid thing there, and then there's the ground.
Yeah.
And then there's a couple levels of ground. There's different there's the aqua
like basements.
And then what they showed was that underground, if you kept digging down, you'd see that it's not a pyramid; it's the top of an obelisk. A great big obelisk.
So that's how the pyramids got there.
Well, you never know.
They built them down from they dug like a big hole and just built them up.
What about those statues where they had the heads of all these statues there for all that length of time?
Yeah.
And then they started digging around one and they realized it went down a long way. It turns out they were full-sized images that had just been covered with millennia of sand.
Oh wow! Eh?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, you never know, right?
You just never know. No.
I do find that interesting. I find it as interesting as the cosmos.
Yeah. And there's apparently watermarks on some of these pyramids.
Well, that's what they've now discovered or realized is that these water erosion marks on the big Sphinx means that it probably predates the flood that came through there, which makes it a lot older than what they thought it was originally. Mm-hmm. I love how these things are coming out more and more now. There's some misinformation, and you have to be careful about your sources.
So if you go against the grain, then they just squash you, and they say, "Oh, you're crazy. That's wrong." Right?
Craziness is allowed. You can watch a lot of crazy YouTube videos of people with crazy ideas about all kinds of different stuff.
Yep. Or TikTok videos.
And it can all be very, very believable. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different images that you can find that will support what it is that you're saying. Whether it's really to do with it or not is the question, right? That's what I mean. Sometimes you're looking at images while they're telling a story, and they're intimating that the images are about the story.
Yeah.
The images are nothing to do with the story. There are other images that they pulled up that support what the story is that they're telling.
Yeah.
But it's not really the story. So you have a little bit careful, as always, right? As always. Anybody that's paid attention to media for all these years knows that you have to have a very critical eye and ear when you're reading stories and watching stories on TV, especially
or on
TV.
Now.
I'm dating myself now.
On the internet or whatever.
Wherever you're getting your news. And you've got to be careful if what they're presenting to you has been put to music, for one thing. You know, that they put music in there to hype, certain aspects of it, to give the mood to others.
Just like you do
all these things,
right?
they tend to show a bias on the part of the producer. It's not an unbiased journalist that's putting this out there.
Yeah.
It's somebody who has an axe to grind, that has a story to tell, that has a particular slant to it.
Yeah.
And they're going to put the music in there to reinforce what that slant is. I'm not saying that all of that isn't right or justified, or it's not all not correct, but a lot of it is. And a lot of it hypes around a particular topic with a lot of dramatic music and a lot of dramatic images. And if you see through the bullshit, you can see that this is somebody that has an agenda here, that's trying to convince people for some reason here, and you can find out other things like where the source of that is. And so you have to just have a bit of a critical mind when it comes to observing media of any sort, wherever it's coming from, and to just
or any news lately.
Any news. I mean, you have your sources that you trust.
Unless it's going to your mom or something like that. It's a family news. Maybe that's more
I
trusting.
I do not rely on family members for my news.
But there's so much
I've stated that repeatedly.
Information and disinformation out there. It's
a lot of
hard to know which
misinformation and
ones.
disinformation.
We don't know which ones.
And you just
which.
have to have a critical mind. You have to, and especially if something that sounds off. It's like, I'm not sure about that statistic you're throwing out there. That doesn't sound right. And there's a lot of times when someone else will come along, they'll do a reanalysis. That's what science is all about, right? Somebody comes up with something that they think might be true in science, and then you get a whole bunch of other scientists that try to prove that or disprove that.
Yeah.
And with what shows up in our media needs to be handled the same way.
Yes.
And it is that when statements are made in the media, there's typically other people that have an opposite agenda, for example. But even more than that, hopefully independent, unbiased journalists that will take what's said by some of these, biased places and be able to, shed some light on it and expose, where they're right and where they're wrong. So that's just all part of, how you navigate the world here. Is you can't really trust a lot of what you're presented with, including this show.
Or
if you don't believe what Glenn and I are saying, or even if you do, not a bad idea to look this stuff up.
Yeah. Or even if the person that's presenting it is selling it correctly. There was an example on the news just a little while ago. They're talking about cell phones in cars and stuff. They had somebody from ICBC on the interview, and the reporter asked, "Well, if you have your car in park and you're using your phone, do you get charged then?" And the guy said, "No, that's totally safe," which was totally wrong. But the guy from ICBC is saying, "Yeah, that's okay." So if you're sitting at a red light and you happen to throw your car in the park, you can use your phone, is what he basically said, which was wrong.
You're told to pull over if you need to use your phone. So I would imagine pulling over is not always.
He was talking about at a red light.
It's not all well, but I'm just saying. So I don't like if you're pulled over because you don't want to use your phone while you're driving. If your car would be in park, of course.
Yeah. See, for me, the word driving means that the car must be in forward motion. If you're stopped at a red light and you're waiting for the light to change, why can't you be doing something? Somebody would be eating. Somebody could be smoking. That's when they want to change.
Yeah, and that one.
Because the thing is,
it's bloody inconvenient when the car in front of you at a red light doesn't go when the light turns green, and you can see through their car that they're fooling around with their phone, and that's why. But you just give them a little toot with your horn, and away they go.
Exactly.
We don't need to have the authorities coming in and giving people huge fines for that, which is not dangerous. It's not dangerous necessarily, for the most part. Now, I mean, if you're the only car at an intersection and the light turns green and there's a car coming behind you and they're expecting you to go, well, still your brake lights are on, and they're not going to plow into the back of you. No, so I don't think that there's enough justification for that interference from authorities.
For me, I was at a red light. I told my phone to call Fountain Tire, but it kept calling Mountain Tire. So I picked it up and looked at it when I said it this time, and as soon as I touched it, that's when I broke the law. And we're allowed a red light too, right? No, so technology is not perfect, and so they reduced the fine to $180 for me, but because of that reason. But you can't even touch your phone.
Apparently, there's a fair amount of carnage on the road because of distracted drivers, not just to do with phones, but primarily to do with phones. And so, even if that's the case, then there needs to be campaigns to address that, because it's not just you that you hurt or kill in a car accident. It's somebody else in many cases. So that I'm in favor of stopping people from texting on their stupid telephones when they're driving.
When they're driving.
That's not something you should be doing.
Yeah.
Stopped at a red light. You're
stopped.
You're stopped.
Who are you gonna hit?
When I first,
Right?
I was one of the first ones to get a cell phone.
Yeah.
I worked in the insurance industry for restoration. My boss was on the cutting edge of what was new, and they always wanted to have a leg up. When cell phones became a thing, I had a built-in phone, just like a phone you'd have in your house, built into the console of my car.
Yeah.
And so I could go to a job site.
And you had to call the mobile operator to make a phone call.
Yeah, and
Remember? Yeah,
and then there was the great big thick ones that we
the
had.
bricks.
And then there was all the rest of it. Well, my boss at the time, may he rest in peace, he was such a great guy, Dan Gork. I miss him a lot. He was an incredible human being. He died at 38 years of age because he had a motorcycle accident after having lost his spleen to the common flu that comes through in February here.
Wow.
So the following year, he died because of that.
Flu.
Of the flu. So, no, pardon me, I'm wrong. He had his spleen removed because of a motorcycle accident in the summertime.
And then he died
in Nevada.
because of the flu.
And then he died when the flu came through because he didn't have a spleen.
Okay.
That's right. So Dan was an amazing human being. He was my boss for 6.5 years. And when we got the cell phones, I mean, his big thing was you got to take advantage of every free moment. You're on your way to a customer's house there. When the light's red, you'd be calling ahead. And you'd be telling her, that you're on your way.
Yeah, and it wasn't illegal then.
It wasn't illegal.
No.
And you were supposed to, in my case, maximize the efficiency of that phone.
Yeah.
And you did that when you were parked at a red light.
Yep.
So, then people got stupid and they're texting while driving and not realizing that you can't take your eyes off the road for more than like a second and a half, right? 1.5, and you got to be back on there. You can't go 1, 2, basically. That's too much because shit can happen. Maybe if you're all alone on a divided highway with no cars in front of you, you can spend 2 or 3 seconds looking around. But no more than that.
Yeah.
Because you could be going off the road and not even know it. You could have an issue with your wheel and not feel it, and now you're driving into a ditch. Yeah. There's shit that happens. A responsible driver does not look away from what's going on for more than like a second and a half.
Watching my mirrors.
Check. Check. But you're always coming back to what's going on. When you're texting, 1,
Nobody's
2,
checking.
3, 4, and you've only written like one word at that moment, and 5 seconds later, holy shit, a lot of bad things can happen.
Yeah.
So, no, don't be driving and text. But stupid people make it so that the other people have to abide by stupid rules. Mm-hmm. So that's why they make stupid rules, is to accommodate the stupid people. And
now a lot of people say, why do the cops get to do it? They have a laptop right there. They get the whole thing, right?
All the
time.
But
their answer is that they've had special training.
They're professional drivers.
Okay, so why can't I go and get
got as
this
much
professional
training
so that I cannot be given a ticket to do what they're doing?
I spent the first few years of having a cell phone training myself how to use it responsibly on the highways.
Yeah.
So
they should offer that to everybody. Then we don't have that problem of people killing other people because they're on their phone, right?
So it's just stupid as hell.
It is.
And but that's okay because that's the government. It's okay because
shit, it's 5:42.
Is it 5:32 already?
5:42.
Oh, 5:42.
5:42.
Oh, we've had too much fun, Glenn.
We have. I should say goodbye so you could talk about the CSP.
I should do that. that's the part of the show. We don't script it, but we try to do that.
So I'm going to say goodbye. We'll see you next week.
Okay, we'll continue this.
We'll be on Neil's page.
Continue this interesting discussion of police powers. And,
unless the restriction gets removed,
driving.
We will be here next week, right?
We'll be here next week unless they ban me now.
No.
And if they ban me, then I'll find somebody else to lend us their phone. And we'll continue to get around these bastards. Yeah. Although I'm not sure anybody else would volunteer their phone if 2 of us in a row get banned.
Well, after 5 years of having the same show on Tuesday, I don't know why I got banned, but somebody's done something somewhere along the line, Keyboard Warrior or something like that.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Did I mention that the cannabis sales in the legal marketplace are down 7.3% or something like that?
$395.5 million in January.
Less money than the month before.
It went back to the gray market.
Yeah, because that's what happens.
Exactly. People are going to know that this weed is better than what the government sells.
The Cannabis Act has has propagated the unregulated marketplace and forced a whole bunch of people back into it. It's continued the people growing and producing for that unregulated marketplace because of the demand that's there. And more people are now finding out that that marketplace is a hell of a lot better than the government's marketplace. And they're losing market share. Yeah. If they had a proper product at a proper price and they weren't spending profits on wiping out other people that just want to make a living or just want to have some involvement with the plant, then they would not be decreasing their numbers, they would be increasing their numbers. But because of their business model, they're going to continue to lose customers, and the unregulated marketplace is going to continue to gain customers. And Health Canada is all about, oh my God, we have to protect the public from the unregulated cannabis.
It's been around for decades.
We never had a problem before legalization with it. There was never watch out for the brown weed or anything like that.
The brown acid, yeah.
And now today, years into this so-called legalization that's really just for the rich, the underground marketplace is still thriving, alive and well, and we still don't have any problems with the unregulated cannabis in the environment. Yeah. So Health Canada and the enforcement agencies should F right off and get the hell out of the whole business of cannabis. There's not any justification. There is no public health safety issues. There are no victims, and there would be less victims by a whole lot if they stopped arresting people, breaking into people's homes, seizing their children, and fining them money, killing their pets, all the other things that they're doing to try to protect people from a dangerous drug is way more dangerous than the dangerous drug they're trying to protect us from. We don't need or want their protection. They're making things way bad.
Fentanyl is way worse, more dangerous than freaking cannabis.
Is it ever? And let's talk about that.
Are they protecting us from that? No. All right.
Well, we're trying to do that, as you know. Thank you so much, Glenn.
See you later.
I appreciate you a lot.
I appreciate you too, my friend.
I smoked the whole joint.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
You got to smoke another one.
Fentanyl.
Yes.
Fentanyl is an extremely powerful synthetic opiate that has been infiltrating the illegal drug supply for the last 7 years. Strange how that has happened. Never really did fully comprehend or get to the bottom of why that's happening. It satisfies a lot of people's agenda that concern me for sure. But whatever it is that has resulted in this situation where the next flap of an opioid or crystal meth or crack cocaine or whatever powder that you're procuring from a non-pharmacy could be your last. It's a public health emergency. It's been going on for 7+ years now. About a year into it, not quite, because I had personal knowledge that high-dose cannabis edibles could be very effective in assisting people through withdrawal. I felt it was my responsibility to share that knowledge and to try to do something about it. So I came up with an idea that we would just start here on the downtown east side of Vancouver at the source of the visible addicts that were dying and make it as easy as possible to get high-dose edibles into their hands. I presented that idea to VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users, got their full board support in putting together a program that would accomplish that. And I could take their support with me as I presented the idea to City Council, because ultimately that is where we really needed to have support. So I went to City Council. I brought a bag of high-dose edibles, clear plastic bag with a few brownies and gummies in them, caps. I held it up to City Council during my 3 minutes of being able to present to them and explained that this is the real safe supply that we should be making easily available to people if we want to try to curb this overdose crisis. We need to give people a way out of their addiction that is safe. City Council wouldn't support me, in that presentation. They wouldn't ask me any questions, which is the way that you get to talk more about what it is that you're going to do. So go back and sit down, and you had your 3 minutes to at least tell City Council about your idea. From there, I went to the Vancouver Police Board meeting with Rob Laurie as my lawyer, and presented to them this idea of making it as easy as possible for people to get high-dose edibles. This is over 6 years ago, so there was no legalization in Canada. This was talking about handing out, a substance controlled by the criminal code. And so, yet I got pretty good response from the VPD. They did ask me some questions. We did talk about it. Had a very good meeting with them. There wasn't much that they felt they could do for me, and I told them that I understood that. I wasn't really asking for anything. I just wanted them to understand what we were trying to do. From there, I waited 2 months while we tried to get City Council on board without success. But by that time, I had already procured from my friends who had dispensaries enough cannabis high-dose edibles to start giving it away. And so I did. It didn't take long, and there was a long lineup of people waiting for me every Saturday to get their care pack. Hundreds of people. There was a number of people that came forward that wanted to help me, and they did, and I needed that help, and it all just worked. So for that first full year, we gave out care packs to a few hundred people every Saturday. For the next 2.5 years, we gave out care packs to well over 250, more like 300 people that would line up for hours to get them. With great success. With numerous people telling us about how they're no longer using the hard substances. And telling their doctors this, as we encouraged them to do. And telling their counselors this, as we encouraged them to do. So when we were 2.5 years in, we got the City Council to pass a motion to support low barrier access to cannabis to address the opioid crisis, which was all about what we were doing and what the High Hope Society was doing. In a meeting with the city, we agreed to get a storefront, and that's how we ended up with a storefront. So after 3.5 years of running this program, during the pandemic, I'll point out, and deemed an essential service by Coastal Health during that time as well, while we were still doing it from the street in front of Vandu. We procured the storefront, we moved into it, we were running 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, paying rent, paying for utilities, paying staff. And so a model had to be derived that would allow that to happen, and that's what we did. We put together a business model of a collaboration between a for sale entity and the cannabis substitution entity. And the one would support the other. However, City Council said that city staff would be coming to assess us, but city licensing came, and not city staff. We never saw anybody from city staff, actually, in all the time we've been here, which is rather strange too, I might say. But city licensing came and said we couldn't be doing what we were doing, that we needed to cease our operations. They sent a threatening letter to the landlord and to myself. And in talking to Rebecca, the councillor that passed the motion, she said, yes, as it turns out, we need to follow Canada's lead with the Cannabis Act, and you'll have to get a license from a higher level of government before we can support you here. So we applied really quickly to Health Canada, because that's the place to apply to, the Special Licensing and Exemption Division of Health Canada. And we put in our application, along with an emergency application for a temporary exemption from the Cannabis Act, to allow us to continue what we'd been proving for 3.5 years by that time, well, actually 4 years by that time, was very effective for people. Health Canada acknowledged, and also we sent it to the federal health minister, by the way, Patty Hayduke. And Patty Hayduke's office and Health Canada both responded back the next day that they had received our applications and that they would try to respond in a timely fashion, is what they said. And then we waited, and we waited. 3 months went by, and now Health Canada wanted to have a conversation on the phone with myself and my lawyer, pandemic stuff, And in that conversation, they apologized first off for taking so long. Public health emergency, after all. People are dying. We have a solution. We need to have this toot sweet. Sorry it's taken so long, Mr. Magnuson. Later in the conversation, they said that, they were working on it, that probably licenses would be forthcoming in early January. And then January came and went, and so did another January come and went, and so did this last January come and go. In this last January, we got a letter from Health Canada, the second one of its kind. We got another one of these back in April of last year, stating that their intent was to refuse our application. And it was because it was an unregulated supply, and it was because we were providing cannabis to people that didn't have a doctor supporting their choice. Well, we responded to that. We explained that, we're more than willing to have a regulated supply. You can either regulate the supply that we're using, or we can use regulated cannabis from the suppliers you already have that have to destroy a whole bunch anyway. Or we could have growers grow for people. As for people needing permission from a doctor, well, that's unacceptable. That barrier has to be removed. There's the vast majority of people that we've been helping for the last number of years here that can't get a doctor if they wanted one, and wouldn't get a doctor if they could in many cases. It's a healthcare emergency on its own, the lack of doctors for people across Canada. And we're dealing with marginalized people that doctors don't want as patients. Many of these people have been kicked out of doctors' practices because the doctor didn't like dealing with them. It's a stigmatization that happens to people that are labeled as drug users. They have a very hard time finding health care. But Health Canada says that these marginalized people that are so vulnerable, the ones that are really at risk here, the ones that are dying more than others, that they shouldn't be able to get access to high-dose cannabis to help them with that without a doctor's permission. Well, that is unacceptable. We can't abide by that one, and we won't. And if they so decide to refuse us because of that or whatever reason, they're going to make criminals out of us. Because me and my team of people will have no choice but to defy that decision. They need to come and visit with us. They need to come and understand the profound value in what we're doing here. And they need to recognize that we are frontline workers that have a personal relationship ongoing with most of the people that we're helping here. We do have some new people on a daily basis come here, but for the most part, the people that are coming here, we know their names, we've heard their stories. In many cases, they feel like family to us. We've known them for years. We've watched them go through all kinds of different things and heard the stories as they've done that. Many of them feel like we're family to them because we lend an ear. We'll give advice. We'll help them. So, in any case, Health Canada has not responded with anything but intents to refuse and delays and excuses. And we've continued to do what we're doing for over a year now. We've been 7 days a week, 8 hours a day. But we couldn't stay in the storefront, which was so safe for people, so convenient for us, so much more able to help us help people, because municipal government won't support us until Health Canada does. And Health Canada has taken over 2.5 years since our application, and we're still waiting. And we'll see what their response is to our response to their intent to deny for the second time. And on it goes. So when we got kicked out of the store, we moved into an RV, unable to stop doing what we're doing, but unwilling to go back to Vandu and have people line up for hours the way we had been before. That was an untenable situation that came to an end both because we had an agreement with the city to get a storefront, which we did, and then subsequently in the end because there was an attack on some of the people in our lineup as a result of a conflict between a hard drug dealer they were encroaching more and more on what we were doing there, and they weren't very happy with what we were doing there. It ended up in a violent explosion of bear spray into the faces of a few of our clients. And so we weren't willing to go back to Vandu. So I got an RV. Our landlord was great, loved what we're doing, didn't want to kick us out, and ultimately didn't kick us out, but certainly was not going to allow us to continue to sell cannabis because he had been threatened and his lawyer had informed him that they could seize his property if he continued to let us do that. So we don't sell cannabis out of the store, we sell cannabis out of the RV. We have to still pay rent on the store because that's our address for Health Canada in our application, and other reasons that we need to keep the space here. We sell cannabis now, not just because we need to pay rent and utilities and staff and the rest of it, but because what we learned in doing that was that there's a whole demographic of people that are invisible addicts, secret addicts. They don't want anybody to know. They're embarrassed about what they're doing, and for good reason in many cases, due to the stigmatization that happens, in many cases put on those drugs by doctors for pain issues or workplace accidents, car accidents, who knows what. But then they end up getting addicted to those substances. Then there's a big pullback by the doctors because there's the whole OxyContin thing with, it being, the source of our whole addiction problem here is primarily that we had this super addictive opioid being put out by doctors under the guise of not being addictive. And now the doctors are supposed to pull everybody back off of these opioids that they've been freely putting them on for everything from a runny nose to a head cold. And people can't get off them because it's not easy to get off them. So they keep using them even though the doctor won't prescribe them anymore. They get them from their friends' medicine cabinets or family's medicine cabinets or from friends that will supply them. And they find other ways and they find other ways until they end up, in many cases, coming down here and getting it here because this is where it's really available. Easy. Walk down a lane anywhere near Main and Hastings, walk down Main and Hastings anywhere near Main and Hastings, and you will be approached verbally at least by several different people in your little walk. Anyway, on and on we go. We continue to supply the service. We continue to wait for Health Canada. And that's the journey that we're on. It's the journey for, obtaining a license for a low barrier access community cannabis store. And they should be available in every little town and city where they've got a problem with homelessness, poverty, and opioid addicts trying to deal with homelessness and poverty and pain. And we'll wait and see what happens. Welcome to our journey. Sorry it's taking so long. I keep hoping every week that it's going to be the week when I get to come on and say, hey, we've got good news. And we're going to be able to move back into the store and serve people with some dignity and, really put a dent in this opioid crisis. But it's not this week. Maybe it'll be next week. We'll wait and see. And we'll wait and see if we're going to actually be able to live stream next week because you never know.
Well, you are live streaming, but on our regular page.
Yeah. And, we might have to make some other adjustments to come to you. But anyway, that's what we're doing. We'll go out for a brief visit with the RV as we always do, and then we'll wrap things up. The weekly weather report from Vancouver it's stunning.
It's
warm,
sunny and warm,
beautiful.
Spring has sprung.
Better. It's going to be a fabulous sunset again tonight. And people are just loving life here. It's light until, 8 or 9 o'clock nowadays, 8:30.
No, last night was 7:36.
No, it's still light after 8.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't get really dark.
Sunset was 7:36 because we were there,
right.
and I posted pictures. So
I'm continuing on to get later and later as we move forward. So, Vancouver's a great place to be, especially on April 20th coming up here at Thornton Park.
Yeah.
That's where you want to be for the world's greatest 420 celebration / protest. This is where we have the huge farmers market of all the different wares of cannabis available for people like we've been doing for all these years. That's the protest that we put on, is that all of those things should be easily available in the marketplace. All these people that want to be purveyors of these things should be allowed to do that. There should be licenses easily available for people to be able to sell cannabis, just like there's licenses easily available for people if they want to sell pharmaceutical drugs or if they want to sell anything. You can get a license to sell just about anything, and people should be able to get a license to sell cannabis just as easily. So that's what we're doing. Let's wander on down here. This is the Canna Wagon, the Ganja Mobile,
Healing
Healing Wave van. This is where we've and over 4 months that we've had to do it from here. But
I'm surviving, and thank you to your people that I have access to something that makes me feel better.
well, thank you for saying that, Victor. I'll cut you a check when we stop filming.
Wasn't it a burger? Oh, you're eating a burger?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, yeah.
A little bit of weed would be my best friend right now.
Yeah, you don't have any?
No,
Oh, what do you mean? They gave you a joint, right?
I got it done.
You got a joint. There you go.
But
Let me get this.
All right.
Talk to the camera.
All right, come on. Come on the camera, he says.
Where'd you go?
Hey, don't worry, I'm right here.
So Victor wasn't talking to you? What the heck? There you go.
There you go, Victor. Well, what do you give you?
thank you, my brother.
Oh, thank him. Don't shake my hand. Shake his.
Yeah.
Well,
There
Victor,
you go.
you've been part of our lineup at Van Du and all the rest of
14
it.
years.
14 years. We've only been doing it for 6 years.
Oh, I thought it was about 14.
Maybe Victor's
Well, you know
years,
how,
yes.
how weed can make time stretch. It only feels like 14 years. We got somebody that wants to get by here. Thanks, Victor.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, brother.
No problem, Victor. Take care, buddy.
Yeah, bye-bye.
All right.
14 years, apparently.
Wow. It's a long time for him.
It feels like 14 years. It feels like a lifetime.
There we go. There's the signs.
I think that what happens in this neighborhood is every day feels like a month sometimes, you know?
Somebody lost
I know, eh?
Stephanie Mills'
I'm not worried
CD.
about that.
Yeah.
I'm not advertising for her. This is not easy to be here. This neighborhood that we're in, we're 1 block away from Main and Hastings, which they call Wasting and Pain. It's the largest center for illegal drug activity in North America, as far as we're told. Well, similar things going on there. There's tents set up. There's one tent on the corner over there. It's there 24/7. It's occupied by people that will provide you with illegal cigarettes and all the powders that you might want. They have weed there. They have just about anything that you want on the illegal marketplace, and they sit there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Carly said she was here yesterday when she was down there. Somebody tried to sell her cocaine.
For sure.
Yeah.
You can't walk through the neighborhood without somebody asking you if you want, something like that here. Totally easily available. And all we're doing is we're trying to counter that with at least having this also easily available. People get to choose what they want, but this choice needs to be there for people. This option needs to be there for people. And the government has a responsibility to make that happen. To restrict access to people who, for whatever reason don't have a doctor supporting their decision is a direct attack on disabled Canadians. These people are disabled either physically, mentally, or by their addiction. And it is a cruel attack on them by our federal government to not allow them to have access to this as an option to the other things that are so quickly and easily available and cheap here on the downtown east side of Vancouver and throughout many other communities where they have this issue going on. So this is our fight, is to get that available, and unfortunately it's taken more than 6 years to do that, and we'll see maybe if this is the year that they get it done. We're 100 years into Prohibition. I'm going to have a seat in the captain's chair here.
How's it going?
Hello, Governor. So yeah, we're 100 years into Prohibition here in Canada, and this is where we're at. That as a real option, as a real remedy for many people. We have hundreds of people here. We have 269 members that get their cannabis in the form of high-dose edibles, thanks to a bunch of amazing donors. That they get it for free every 4 days here, and those people need to have this here. It's where we're at somehow after 100 years of prohibition, where it's way worse than it's been throughout all of that, because the government has capitalized on legalizing cannabis for themselves and their rich friends. They're running a cartel and a protection racket with taxpayer dollars. We have a public health emergency where cannabis high-dose edibles and easy access to cannabis would help a lot in curbing how many people are dying in this public health emergency. And yet we've still got a federal government that's digging in their heels, spending all kinds of money, raiding the Victoria Buyers Club, raiding and arresting us, bringing us through the court system, calling us criminals, doing whatever they can do to try to prevent what we are offering as a remedy to this healthcare emergency or public health emergency. It is extremely disgusting for us to understand these things. It's very frustrating. I don't want my country to be corrupt. I want to think that I live in a free country with public servants that to some reasonable degree care about me and my fellow citizens.
Yeah, we want our government to save people's lives, not try to.
And the only thing that they seem to be interested in is maintaining their capitalization on the so-called legalization of cannabis. They're not concerned about that cannabis actually helps people and they're getting in the way of people getting the help that they need. They're concerned about whether or not people are going to be getting that cannabis from someplace other than their cartel members. And this is not acceptable. We can't settle for this legalization. We need to really do something about that. There's things that we can do, and you know I recommend everybody do something. If everybody does a little something, then we can really get something done here. You can write letters, you can make phone calls, you can send emails, you can make up posters, you can do lots of different things. And the one I'd recommend the most coming right up is April 20th. Wherever you are, use that day to protest the inequities and the injustices that are going on with respect to the policies around cannabis. Do something on that day. Make that a day that you protest. If you're in Vancouver, come down to Thornton Park. Add your presence to the group that's there so we can send a huge message with a huge crowd that we're not going to accept this type of legalization. That what we want is the farmer's market type of legalization where it's easy access not just for the consumer to get the cannabis, but it's easy access for people to be able to provide cannabis. It's like growing tomatoes in your backyard and deciding to make a little bit of extra money on the side by setting up a stand and selling it. Nothing wrong with that. It doesn't need to be super regulated unless there were problems that arise. Somewhere around there is more like what we should have in the availability of cannabis. To somebody who's grown some great cannabis, wants to make a bit of money to pay some bills or something, and finds a way to offer it to people and people want to pay for it and buy it, that should not be a criminal offense. It shouldn't be much of a violation, if any violation at all, really. We are not free people. We are free people. We are supposed to be free people, but we're not treated like free people. We're free people that have been kidnapped by the financial parasites that have been preying on us in the forms of kings and queens and dictators and tyrants and pharaohs and all these types of people for all this time. They are not legitimate authorities over us. They have no jurisdiction over us as sovereign beings, yet they do, because they do it by force, and we allow it. So, free we are not. Whether or not we are ever free depends a lot on us. But in this case, with respect to the cannabis file, freedom is extremely important, and the lack of it is still costing people their lives and their livelihood and so much more. So, there you go. This is our fight. You guys want to say anything? Do you have your heart set on saying something?
Come to Thornton Park.
Come to Thornton Park.
Yes.
420 protest 420 at gmail.com is how you can find out about sponsorship opportunities and booths. But short of that, just come to Thornton Park. Just be part of the movement. Have your voice heard in the large crowd of people that's there. Have the time of your life, because that's what these things are really all about. As I think back to especially the last number of 420s, but I've been to 25 of them, and they were all epic in their own way. Every year, by the time 420 was over, we would go out for a restaurant meal somewhere and just like be glowing with what we had just been through for that day. And they continued to get more and more epic as we moved forward. The pandemic put a bit of a crunch on that for sure, but we're back, and I think we're coming back in the same type of spirit as we had before the pandemic, and we're going to have a great time at Thornton Park. So thanks for that, Dex, and thanks for what you guys are doing as always. Frontline workers in a tough place, working in a in an interesting situation, cramped in with other people.
It's a lot easier with Kevin here helping these days.
Is it easier with Kevin? He's a good guy to have in the vehicle.
Oh, hell yeah.
Not too busy today, eh?
So
It's pretty good today.
It's been
been
good.
pretty steady.
Well, thank you,
he's
Kevin,
pretty
for what you
steady all
do.
day long. And,
Thank you, Dexter, too.
so thanks to all of you for watching and hopefully sharing the message and doing whatever you can do. Be part of the whole let's get proper legalization team. Let's get low barrier access. That's our new mantra, if you will. And we need everybody to help us with that. And it's a great thing to be part of. And in the end, you know, when we're looking back on this thing and who's going to be on what side of what actually happened, it's going to be good to be on the right side of history and to be able to say that, you know, you did your part, you wrote a letter, you made a phone call, you got up the guts to go and talk to a police officer or whatever it is that, you know, you can do to change this situation. Because change in this situation is what's needed. We can't settle for what we've got. This can't be the model of how legalization is throughout the world for the rest of history. Because all this is Prohibition 2.0 as it was before, and even worse, with even more harsh penalties for people that are working outside of the cartel. So do your part, be part of the team. Support 420 wherever you are. Have your own 420. If you're in Vancouver, come to Thornton Park and join us there. And we'll be back next week with more on the quest for a low barrier access community cannabis store, and whether or not the federal government is going to continue to show its corruption, or if they're going to actually do something to help people. And we'll see you next week. And before we do that, you know what you got to do. All of those things, but mostly, have as much fun as you can. It is very important.